Yeah, we can start.
Okay. Hi, good evening, all, and welcome to the Nagri Rerun 7. We are going to watch Water Water Everywhere today. We have the team Maharshi Kashyap and Chiranjeev Bhaumik here, and their mentor Sanjeev Shah with us. Nagri Reruns is a retrospective program of Nagri short film competition where we are watching 10 films that were made as a part of Nagri 2020 last year. And so in Nagri Reruns, we try and watch the films and have a conversation with the filmmakers and the mentor regarding the process and a context of the film. So we'll just watch the film now and then we'll move on to discussing about the film with the team.
মহানগৰত বানপানীৰ সমস্যা সমাধানৰ প্ৰতিশ্ৰুতি হৈ থাকি যায়।
ভৰ বাৰিষা নাহোঁতে খুদ ৰজাঘৰৰ পদূলিতে বৰ্তমান কৃত্ৰিম বানৰ আচুৰ।
এফালে কৰোনাৰ সন্ত্ৰাস, আনফালে বানপানীৰ
Heavy downpour in the last 24 hours has triggered flash floods in different parts of Guwahati city.
পথছোৱাৰ দৰে বৰ্তমান বুৰ গৈছে একাঠু পানীৰ তলত।
Thanks so much for the film. I think it's very interesting, the placement of this film essentially, because in Nagari 2021, we are talking about people and livelihoods in urban India. So it basically looks at resources and everything that is a subset of livelihood. And this film sort of brings in that context of accessibility to resources in cities across different layers of the cities. So I think it's very interesting as to how this film sort of brings about that explanation of how different layers exist in the city that talk about accessibility on a different scale and scope. So with that, I actually wanted to ask Sanjeev to speak a little about the process of the film and how did mentorship with Morshi and Chiranjeev turn out for the film. Sanjeev, you're on mute. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'll talk very briefly about how, for me, when we started the film, what happened and why. To start with, why we thought it was uh, a proposal that should be selected in a way, because it's not like the other proposals that we had, which was dealing with larger groups of people or with communities, with the other Nagari films or that, all the proposals. And I felt that a personal story would be equally relevant, to the narrative of how people struggle to make a living. So I was kind of keen that we saw this film through in that sense, and I think everybody agreed that it was an interesting proposal. The original proposal was, of course, the written proposal was very different. If I'm not mistaken, there was this whole idea of interweaving images from folk stories or whatever, but as graffiti on various graffiti, right? So there was an element of that which was supposed to be interwoven in the film. And did you originally have a song as well? Some music you had proposed? No. No. So anyway, so that was the original idea, and then we kind of talked about it over a period of time. The graffiti idea, I think, kind of sustained till almost the very end.
Yeah.
But somehow, I think in production that was becoming very difficult. I think you shot a couple of images as well.
Yeah, we did some, but it didn't turn out good. Like
yeah, so in that sense, and over the process of making the film, I think we narrowed down. We actually removed a lot of ideas which were larger ideas. Earlier we had thought that we could have a very contrary kind of image, contrasting image of how a certain other class of people have access to water and how they use or misuse water. We thought that contrast might be interesting to juxtapose against this man's struggle to get just 2 tins of water in a way. That we dropped, I think, at some point. And so it's become, in a sense, a more focused narrative around which you see activities in the city. And it's a city which essentially should not have a water issue because it's on the banks of the Brahmaputra, where. So that's how I was looking at it, and that's how we worked at it. Now, Maharshi can of course talk about.
Would you like to add anything,
process?
Chiranjeev?
Yeah, I would just like to add that in the beginning, I was being very lazy in making the film, and Sanjeev sir was very strict about at one point that you should just go and shoot, because I was not lazy. I was just thinking that where should I start and where would the film go and all that. And I was reluctant to start shooting. I was just into video call and more discussions. And he was like very strict at a point, just go and shoot. Whatever you get, just go and shoot it. Shoot that old man, then you'll find out what we need and what we don't. And that's how it happened actually. Otherwise, I don't know when this film would have ended or if it would have been completed or not. So
and I also feel that in the process of making the film, we also realized that there were certain points that we needed to show and some things that weren't needed to show what we wanted to express. So that's why a lot of ideas were also omitted from the beginning. And throughout the process, we also learned, we also grew and involved new ideas to show what we wanted to. I think that's about it.
So I think what happens is this is when you imagine a film as a fiction film, you know, with a character, and the process of shooting that or constructing that is very different from, say, if you're doing a verite documentary. And that's when the problems start happening. When you want to do a fiction film, you want to be very sure of what you're shooting, because that's how you have been taught. You don't have to do it like that, but that's your training. To kind of overcome that, and I think also when you're making your first film, you want it to be the best film ever. So it happens with everybody. First film, first house that you design. So that takes a while to overcome, and once you get into the rhythm of just shooting, and you realize that you have control, you know, shooting is not the only activity that gives you control. There's much more control on the editing table in a sense. So as long as you're confident about the idea, I think initially Maharshi's problem was that he was not really confident about the idea. Somewhat. I don't know what it was, but I think he was not confident. So I think that, and that's a process that happens with everybody when you're making a film. So
I think coming back to what the film addresses, Maharshi, you being a resident of Guwahati, we actually wanted to understand what the existing infrastructure of water delivery to houses in Guwahati is, and how is the Brahmaputra water harvested and delivered to the houses of the city?
I'm sorry, can you come again? I could, because there was a call
no
and I got
No
interrupted.
problem. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I was just saying that you being a resident of Guwahati, I think it's more relevant and sort of it sets the context to talk more about the film. If you can sort of share something about how the water infrastructure of the city is. How is the water harvested from Brahmaputra and then delivered to the houses of the city? So if you could just share something about it so that we can sort of take the conversation a bit forward in terms of the specificity of the film.
Yeah.
So a board was formed. It is
Chiranjeev,
So Zyka is
can't hear you.
Your audio is no.
Can you say it again? Can you say something again?
The network is fine.
Oh, this is better.
no audio.
No audio.
Chiranjeev, can you just leave the group and come again in the
Or
meeting?
you can probably try and unplug your earphones and just try using it through the mic and the loudspeaker.
Yeah.
You know, try saying something, Chiranjeev.
me?
Barely.
Actually, sir, I'm traveling,
Oh.
so the network
Yeah,
is
now
in
it's
This
now
is-
we can hear you.
Yeah, this is good enough. Okay. Do you want
Okay,
me to
sir.
repeat
So
the
I
question?
was no, I think I heard your question. You were asking about how the water is distributed around the city.
Absolutely.
Uh, so, so I was saying that around 12 years before, the city of Guwahati, they decided that they should have a proper distribution system for the water. So a board was formed. It was called the JAL board. And along with a Japanese funding company named Zaika, so the project started. And the completion of the project is supposed to be in 2022, but it is still long way from completion. So basically, the process is the water is intaken from a place called Kharguli. So this place, the intake, the factory, the setup has been being changed since the last few years because Brahmaputra is a very turbulent and unpredictable river. So right now, a proper intake point has been made in Kharguli, and after that intake, the water is then taken to a purification or treatment plant, which is also in Kharguli. So from there, the water is then sent to 3 water tanks, which are situated on top of the hills. Since Guwahati is a very hilly region, so there are overhead tanks in hilly areas. Like there are 3 tanks exactly. So the water is then pumped to the city, to the residents and other commercial spaces from those 3 tanks. So this is the basic theoretical procedure. But the problem is, sir, that not a lot of like all the places do not actually get the water as they were promised. And there are places where water is being illegally pumped out from the supply line by people who are from more affluent families. So which brings us to the point that a huge section of the society, so they are deprived of the services, and part of it is still incomplete, but as promised by the government, which should have been substantially be completed by now, since we are already almost reaching 2022. So that was the completion date of the project. So that is the process of how the water is transported all over the city.
Yeah, that is basically the process, but I'll just add something to it. So the year 2022 is the year that is proposed now, but when it had started in 2008, it was supposed to end in 2012, and then they could not complete it, so they asked for more time. So then it increased till 2016, and then it never got completed. So it's still, now the date is 2022, and we don't know till when it is going to get completed. Like there are 4 parts of the whole system, and basically only one is now working, and the other 3 are have no signs of getting of them working in near future. So
And
that is the whole
this problem
idea
has
of
also
water in Guwahati. Like me, myself, when every alternate day I have to wait for 2 hours to collect water and pump it because the water from where we collect it doesn't come to my house, which is a little bit in a height. So I have to spend 2 hours every alternate days to collect water. So although there is always flood, and every year there will be flood and people will die out of flood, there's no water to drink.
And this inadequacy on the systems part has also given rise to a lot of middlemen who are selling that water, and which is accessible to only a certain strata of people who can buy the water and who can pay for it to be transported to their houses,
Like the
via
tanker
tanks or
services.
via trucks. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of the inadequacy and the difference of users, could you explain a little more about the protagonist and his context in the settlement and his relationship with the water?
So basically, when the first time I saw this person was when he was actually carrying water to the hills. He does that every day for about 4 or 5 times, because that's the amount of water his family requires for that day. So that's like 10 buckets of water every day. So basically it's very high in the hills, and when I saw him, it's not just about the empathy of a poor man carrying water, but also about how him walking in the hills, and was creating a certain kind of a rhythm for me, and later I saw a film called by Simon Liang called The Walker. So he has a series of short film called The Walker series, where um, a monk, a Buddhist monk, walks in slow motion throughout the film. So when I saw this man, and later I started realizing that it's like that. Like, this man has this rhythm continuously for the whole day, just carrying water, and his body is not really like, it's not capable of doing that. His body is not capable of doing that, but he just keeps on doing it. And there's a rhythm. He doesn't stop. He doesn't like. He doesn't have a. He has particular places where he would rest, but it's not that he would wait in the middle out of tiredness. He just has that, I will walk till this point, then I'll wait for 2 seconds, then I'll again walk till this point, then I'll wait for 2 seconds more, and then I'll reach my home. He has a certain kind of a routine. To talk about the social condition of the person, obviously he's very poor, as we can see. We see his house in the film. That's and he has a daughter and a wife who are daily wage workers. His daughter is not really a daily wage worker as such. She works in a small company nearby, but they are not like, basically they need 600 rupees per month to get water, and that's not something they can afford. 600 rupees per month. So that's what he does. Like, there's no other way out. I mean,
I want to add something here. What I think, the protagonist, he represents 60% of the population in Guwahati. Basically, the working class, the service providers, mainly the lower income group, and the economically weaker sections. So basically, they are running the city. So it is also something, a duty on our part, that they get the basic amenities that is necessary for a proper housing, or a proper a basic living standard. So yeah, that's what I had to add.
indeed.
We wanted to understand actually as to how is Babul Chandra Das placed in the city, because the kind of geography that you see, or kind of the background that you see, where he crosses the hill, then he eventually reaches the well. So what kind of geography is shown in that frame versus, like, how far is the tap if he has to access a tap for water access?
So
Sir,
it's a yeah, Chiranjeev, please continue.
No,
I
like,
think
not a
to
well.
answer that question,
Not
I
a
would
well.
like to add that the place
Yeah.
where we shot the movie and where Babul Chandra is from, that part is technically inside the city only.
Okay.
Since Guwahati has a lot of hills already, so it does look like it's on the outskirts, but all the condition on the hills are kind of the same. There are roads, like the hill that that is shown in the movie, that originally that was one big hill, and through which nowadays a road has been cut. So service has been provided, for example, the road for people who need it, but other services for the people who are living there have been neglected.
Yeah.
So
it's very Guwahati has a lot of small hills, and like the whole city is covered with hills. So basically, in the hilly areas, it's very difficult to get water pumped up. So
and
the
also
water
low
scarcity
groundwater.
is more in those areas. Although these natural streams running through the stones inside the crust of the earth, that is there, but this water dries up a lot. Like, very soon this gets dried up. In the monsoon, these wells will have water, but towards the winter season, it will completely dry up. So the like the whole idea of getting water every day throughout the year is not possible for these people. So they have to walk and carry water and struggle in different ways. Some people line up, as we see in the film, so they just wait for water to come throughout the, like, for 2-3 hours in the morning. Yeah, that's how the whole thing is.
So you've really looked at Babu Chandra Das as sort of like a metaphor or a characterization to a larger population of the city, right?
Yes. Yes.
Would you say that if you had a different subject, do you think the narrative would have changed?
I think the narrative would have changed slightly, but the entire message would have been the same. Rich or poor, they are both suffering for water. It's just that the rich has enough resources to transport that resource to himself, whereas the economically backward classes do not have that luxury. So I think the suffering is the same. Something that is supposed to be a basic amenity provided for everyone is being made into a luxurious commodity, which is available only to the affluent masses. So I think even if we had changed the subject to someone who is from an affluent side of society, we could have shown he would also be suffering for problems of water, but he has the solution, other solutions which he can afford to solve that problem. But basically everyone is suffering from the same problem. Everyone is suffering from a water shortage in an area that lives in an abundance of water, which was our main motive while shooting the movie.
People living in huge buildings, like say 2 years before, the people who had bought flats or apartments, now they don't have water anymore because the water level has gone down. So that's how everybody is suffering from it. But obviously the whole social class definitely comes into play when we are talking about things like water or basic amenities,
And the groundwater, the source of groundwater is very low in the hills and it's higher in the plains, and there is no permit for digging up wells or getting a bore well done. So the thing is, like, it is decreasing the groundwater at a very alarming rate. So which is also going to cause a problem in future regarding the floods. As the groundwater keeps going down, the ground will keep going down as well along with it. So it is just adding to the problem that can be solved at one go.
Yeah.
Actually, the problem is kind of like it has become a system, like Chiranjeev just mentioned. There is no permission as such to dig water out from, like, no permissions is granted as such. But there is a whole system that has formed in Guwahati where you have to buy water from these people, because there's a whole market of water right now. Like people who would like have dug these holes and it's like a whole system. Then there will be trucks who will be supplying water. People who can buy water will buy, who can't, they will just suffer like Babu Chandra.
So I was actually keen to understand if this problem, since when has this problem existed? Like, has this problem sort of got accelerated because of increase in density of population? I don't know. I mean, I'm just wondering, has this been there ever since like inception?
See, Guwahati is a very recently developed city. Like it is growing in a huge rate. So it's not planned. Definitely, it's very unplanned, like most of the cities in India. So basically, the density of the city is definitely increasing. And for example, at my home, we used to have a well, like probably 15 years ago, and it got dried up. And this well was, it had water for like throughout the year, and very clean water and very nice water. And people would just say that it's like that water well got dried up like 15 years ago. In my area, whoever had well, everyone's wells got dried up like 12 years ago. So now everybody has to buy water in the area. The apartments are growing, people living are growing, need for water is growing. I think that is the primary reason. Maybe Chiranjeev has something to add to it.
No, like Maharshi said, I also agree that Guwahati, the growth of Guwahati has been very organic. The roads are not planned, the housing areas are not really planned. So there are certain areas in Guwahati that were below the water level. So people have just filled it up with water, and there were tributaries of the river Brahmaputra that were flowing through those areas. So people just, filled it up with soil and started living there. But there is still problems of flash flooding happening there because you can't change the course of nature, no matter how much you try. So the flood problem has always been there. And about the drinking water problem, it has also always existed because there was a lack of proper infrastructure to distribute the water, even though it was there, lack of the treatment of water. So this problem has always been there, like since a long time. So that is all I want to add to Maharshi.
The film somehow recognizes accessibility to an essential resource of water, or
Yes.
the idea of livability when it comes to the protagonist. So we wanted to understand how does this the scope of the film sort of becomes bigger and address the problem or the issue of housing inadequacy.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
of course, like livability is a subset of the bigger idea of housing and
Yes, yes.
livelihood. We wanted to
Yes.
understand as to how did you look at the whole personification of the idea.
Sir, if I were to talk in a bit of detail about this, the thing is, according to the master plan of Guwahati, there are a lot of residential spaces and a lot of commercial spaces. The thing is, there are a lot of commercial buildings that are up in commercial spaces, but they are empty. And whereas there are a lot of commercial spaces, working commercial spaces in residential areas. So what can be done is we can, these commercial spaces in residential areas can be shifted to those empty commercial buildings in those commercial spaces, and these residential areas can be fully converted for people of this social strata, so that they can also access the water that people in the city, like in the major areas, are using. So there, I think that is the solution, but I think we have not really shown it in the movie. But this is the larger scope of the movie, that how the proper zoning of areas and proper distribution of the area, land area, the housing, the area for housing, can help solve this problem of water as well, so that these people come in a radius of the area where water distribution is already going on, even though in small quantities, but still it is happening.
Yeah, so when in the beginning, when I was having this idea of making this whole idea of the film, when it was there, and this whole theme of Nagari came out, so the whole, even I also thought that that is why I also wanted to make the film, because I mean, send a proposal, because I thought that if like whole idea of living in houses and living in the whole architectural ideas, they only add up when there are people living in them, like in the houses. Like otherwise there is no point of this architecture, or there is no point of like if there is no one to use them. And how does a human being live in a house which is well constructed or well made, or even if it is well made, like how does one look at it? Like, so basically, if there is this basic amenities that a human being needs, if they are fulfilled to a person living in it, only then we can talk about how good a house can be, or how nicely a house can be built for people. So I mean, that is why the whole idea of water, I think, comes into play even when it's not directly related to housing as such, but
I mean, I'm sure that these issues have been come out of mismanagement, which have been political infrastructures, and also of some governance. So we believe to some level that these solutions can come to a fair level through some policies or some management sort of that can take care of certain things in the city, which purely address the city as one. So we were actually
So speaking of like policy and problems and solutions, we wanted to know, are there any measures being taken to look at the flooding problems? And as you talked about the water table that's currently being mismanaged, and how that correlates to the supply of potable water in the city.
Okay. Regarding the distribution system, the plan is in place, but the execution is yet to happen, like we said. Like I talked about earlier in the first question that you asked, like how the plan is supposed to be when if the board collects the water and distribute to the homes, which is there in paper, but it is not there in real life right now at this moment. And regarding the other part, regarding the flooding problem, there are a lot of proposed plans which have not taken place yet, but some of these are like as I said before, the Brahmaputra is a very turbulent and unpredictable nature. So what they are thinking is they are thinking of widening the tributaries and the channels that connect to the river, so that there is a better drainage of the excess water in the city, logging in the city to the river. And the other is the digging up of the riverbed, so that the levels don't rise up anymore.
right.
As the water level, as we know, is in Guwahati is rising up every year, and in a few years, a major chunk of Guwahati will be underwater if these proposed plans are not like worked on. So these are the ideas that have been proposed that I think can help the situation right now, but they are a bit of a distant dream, as you can say. Like they are a bit far from reality right now.
I just
So,
remember Still Life by Zia Zanke when you were talking about this. So a whole city gets drowned and somebody is looking for someone who is like shifted somewhere else. Okay, please continue.
oh, that's it.
So to close it off, we'd like to hear about how you worked around the treatment of the film, and were there any issues and interesting stories you'd like to share from the process of filmmaking?
Yeah, it like so basically I think it was fun. The whole shoot was really fun, and the most important part was how Sanjeev was always like telling us to go and shoot, and we didn't for a long time, and then we went to shoot. And so basically I think it's like when we are shooting someone who is from a strata like bubble, for me it becomes very difficult, or people a filmmaker who is from the privileged side of the society, it becomes quite difficult to shoot them, like how do you shoot a person who is so less privileged than you, and then you have all this gaze in you to look at him in a particular way. So I always had this doubt that am I going to shoot a poverty porn out of this whole film? And I think I don't know how. I think it somehow there was always this back and forth between all of us, and Sanjeev sir was always there. So I had this confidence that probably we'll just shoot him the way I want to shoot him, and then think of the other things. I think it worked out in a way. What do you think, Sanjeev sir, about it?
It's always a difficult call to take, the gaze is a problem, and how you personally kind of deal with this whole idea of either intruding in somebody else's life, or looking at somebody else's life from outside. But I think the bottom line is that you have to be confident that your intentions are kind of not exploitative in that sense. And I think that becomes important in all, because you can't get away from the fact that if you're shooting somebody, it is from outside. That is always going to stay, unless you're shooting yourself in some ways. But yeah, so I was quite sure that if there was a kind of awareness of this in itself, the shooting would be fine, you know. You would not be manipulating or exploiting the image unduly in that sense. And yeah, so I think that was the
Yeah.
basic issue that one had to resolve.
But somehow, like Babul Chandra in the film doesn't look bothered when you have the camera on him. Or was it like after a lot of preparation and briefing that you could sort of get a natural shot out of him? Because I think
Actually,
it's
I kind of knew him for some time.
okay.
Although like I never talked to him as a uh, like a lot or something, like, but we always used to say hi whenever I was like walking by that road. So and also once, so okay, there was also this part that I wanted to shoot, but later we decided to drop it. So once when I was like walking, I was actually passing by and he was carrying water, and I stopped to look at him carrying it, because there was nothing you can actually do but just look at it, because he's just carrying it and you can't go and help him out. Like, you can't say I'll carry it for you, because he's just doing it, you know. And I was just looking at him, and at one point he goes, just before he reaches his house, he is unable to carry it and he drops the bucket. 2 buckets of water fall just before he reaches his house, and in front of my eyes the water is flowing down the hill, and I can't do anything. Neither can he. He just looks at it for 2 or 3 seconds. He just stares at the water that is flowing down. Then he just signs like that, and he just walks back to back to the well again to carry water again. So when I saw this, it was quite a difficult image to actually see, you know. And then I was very reluctant at some point to really shoot it in the film and keep it in the film. But then Sanjeev told me that it will be too much at certain point. Like it will become too heavy a shot for a documentary when we are looking at the image would be very difficult to take in a documentary. And it is true. Like now I realize that if that was the case, the whole film would be very different, and it would kind of become a very more towards a poverty porn side, you know. Like it will become more it would be a very difficult like scene to digest. It was difficult for me to look at it, and even in a film it will become more difficult, you know. It will just become very fake. So that was one scene, and then I went up to him and like talked. But this person is kind of very friendly, and sometimes you are lucky with characters when you are working with them. He was kind of very open, and he's just started, like when we first went, me and Chiranjeev were there, we just started talking to him, and he started telling stories, like stories about how he was a driver once and how he saw like lion in the forest, and how he somehow like drove just beside the lion, and that lion just jumped above their like car. Some stories like that. It was really fun talking to him in the beginning, and I was like thinking maybe this can be another film, you know, like whatever he's telling, these stories can be really interesting if we can like get him in the film. We shot them, but obviously it didn't work out in the idea of the film, so we had to drop it. But yeah, he was very friendly, and it kind of some people are probably blessed with like camera, you know, aware.
Yeah, and I think that he was kind of unbothered with the camera because he has already accepted his helplessness. Like he
Yeah.
is not the kind of person who is even complains about the situation he is in. Like he does not expect anything, not from the government, not from anyone. So he is doing what is necessary for him to survive. And in the process, we got some shots of him. And for me, the interesting part was when I went through the same thing with Maharshi, and I felt that this story should be out there for people to also understand how much hardship other people go through. And even while we were walking in that uphill, it was very difficult for us without any heavy weights along with us. We just had our camera and small tripods and all that. So him being such an old man and still carrying such a big load with such an unbothered look in his face. Like Maharshi said that the water fell down, but he still went back down and got it back without complaining. So it was his helplessness, I think, that like he has lost that zeal to even complain or something like that, say something negatively. I think this is something that should have been put out. So that's why we did that.
But I don't think it is helplessness, Chiranjit. It's people. Okay, it's a struggle, but a lot of people they're not helpless. They're helping themselves, the act
That's
of
what I'm
helping
saying.
yourself.
So like they are fighting. So they are not complaining.
No, but when you use a word called saying helplessness, it's a problematic word in certain situations.
Oh, okay, sir.
No, it's not. It's just that then it becomes a gaze, because if you're looking at a helpless person that you're shooting, then it becomes a I'm relating it to the larger idea of how you look at a scene or a person when you're shooting,
Okay.
So one has to look at, see, if he was helpless, he would have sat down there when the water fell with his head in his hands and just,
yes,
but it's something he has to do, so he does it. All of us do in our own way,
Yes.
I mean, if you're shooting, for example, forget the privilege of being a filmmaker, and you come home and realize that your card has been wiped out, you'll go and shoot it. I mean, it's simple, right? Because you have to do it. So I think one has to look at the positive of each endeavor.
I think the correct term will be acceptance, sir. So his acceptance of the situation and how he tackles it on a day-to-day basis.
Right, and the spirit with which you do it. You need water. I mean, there are women who walk 15 kilometers in villages to get water every day. They're laughing, they're talking, So yeah, of course, it's a very unfortunate fact of life that people have to do that. That is unfortunate, but I think, and I think that is the spirit which one has to look for if we are really to address this whole idea of what's happening to the world. When you are asking this question of what are the solutions to this or what is happening, I think the biggest thing is we have to reimagine what we mean by cities and what we mean by urbanization. The model that we've been following is not going to work. It does not work. And the pandemic has, of course, made it very clear that the bigger the city, the more the problems, and the inability of the infrastructure to address problems. So I think the key to this is, how do we relook the form of cities, the form of, Bangalore today, I mean, you're talking of Guwahati, Bangalore, so many areas in Bangalore get water through tankers, large, very posh apartments, which have 4 swimming pools, and they're all getting water through tankers. And they have filled up some, God knows how many lakes in Bangalore. So one has to, I think, address that in a big way.
Yes. I think that's a good note to end on, with some sort of something to ponder upon later. Thanks so much. Thanks, Maharshi. Thanks, Chiranjit. Thanks, Sanjeev, for being here. Thanks for making this into a successful rerun. And thanks everybody for logging in. And we'll be seeing you next week again at the Charles Correa Foundation for a new rerun. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Bye.